This is our energy show, our special energy show from Verge at the Hilton Hawaiian Village, and we've done we've done one just a little while ago, now we're doing another, and we'll try to give you an on-the-spot report of what's going on here today. We have two special guests, aside from my co-host, Sharon Moriwaki, who's very interested in Verge. We have the CEO and founder of Orison, that's Eric Clifton. Welcome to the show, Eric. Thank you. And we have a policy director of Green Charge Networks, that's Dan Vickery. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
So let's talk to Eric first. Eric, what is Orison and what does it make? And let's get a handle on it.
Sure. So Orison is the first plug-and-play energy storage device that's seen as an appliance. So instead of going through the standard deployment methods of energy storage where you have to have installation and everything, Orison makes it very simple. You can ship it directly to your door, you plug it in, and it starts working for you. It is a different way of looking at the Internet of Things and how energy storage can be placed on the customer side of the meter in a way that both benefits the consumer and the utility. So it's good for green energy in general.
Okay, what is it, the box?
Orison actually, we designed it to be interesting to the consumer. So think of an Apple type of product where the designs, we have one that's called a tower, and that tower is about 3 foot high, about 10 inches round, and it looks kind of like a really nice lava lamp for those who come from the hippie era. And then we have a panel which is only 2 inches thick, and both our products weigh about 40 pounds. And so it can literally be networked together so you can expand it. They're 2 kilowatt hours a piece. Everything's included. So the power electronics, the batteries, the communication, all of that's in one package. Simply plug it in and it starts working for the customer. But it can be networked so you can go from 2 kilowatt hours to 50, 60 kilowatt hours if you desire.
So you can make multiple modules.
It's like building bricks. It's kind of like thinking of Legos, and they can mix and match. You can have this freestanding floor one, or you can have multiples on the wall in order to expand however you need it.
So anyone can buy it, and how much is it?
Yeah, so right now retail cost on the panel is $1,600, but we have an expansion unit, which means you can take the one with the inverter in it and expand multiple units up to 14 kilowatt hours. And so it's $1,600 for the panel. It's $1,100 for the expansion unit. All of them are 2 kilowatt hours, 2.2 kilowatt hours in increments. And then the tower is also a 2 kilowatt hour tower. And again, you can put a slave unit on it and have multiples. But the interesting thing about the tower is we really designed it to be a consumer type of product. So it has a Bluetooth speaker in it. It's got a lamp in it, and some other features that make it a consumer device that you want as like a bookends on your couch or an end table or something. Think of an apartment would want to have incorporated in.
A speaker?
Yeah, Bluetooth speaker.
Does it play my favorite music?
If you want to, you use whatever Bluetooth player you have, and it'll transmit that music.
Okay, so this is a battery, though.
It's a battery. Yeah.
And okay, and I had the impression when you said, that the customer could sort of do this himself. It's a do-it-yourself. I don't have to call in an electrician or anything.
No permits, no interconnect agreements. Nothing.
I'd love to see an unboxing video about this.
So I get have it down on the floor so you can actually take a look at it.
We're going to take a look at it for sure. So I go down, the box is delivered by UPS or something.
Amazon,
right? 40 pounds, I have my wife help me. Okay, and then I bring it into the house, I unbox it, what's inside there, and exactly how do I connect it up?
Yeah, so basically, if the panel's the more complicated one, you have to put a couple of drywall screws into the wall and hang it on the wall. It's not that difficult. And literally plug it in. It comes with a smart cord, which enables us to be a plug-and-play device. And the tower is even simpler than that. You place it on the floor and plug it in. That's pretty much it.
Okay. And now does it connect up with my photovoltaic on the roof?
So it's an energy arbitrage. So we monitor your photovoltaics. And so depending on your meter usage, so your current demand and how much your production is, we offset the demand of the unit. So if you are exporting to the grid because you're not using any energy at your house, we actually can tell Orison to charge at that point, and it'll pull off the excess so it never goes back to the grid. And it's really important in areas like we'll say Nevada or even Australia, where the feed-in tariffs or the net metering is going away, or it's gone away. Actually, Hawaii has that same issue. That's right. And so what it allows the consumer who's already invested in solar to keep it power on their side, and they don't have to deal with the bill kind of arbitrage play that the utilities are doing.
Okay, so this is going to connect to what, all my appliances? It's going to control the power in my house from the photovoltaic to the refrigerator, right?
So sort of. So what it does is it by plugging it in, it actually energizes everything on the customer side of the meter. So if it's plugged into one circuit and something on the other side of the house is pulling power, it'll actually pull that power from the Orison unit. If the grid goes down, it actually trips the breaker and isolates the individual circuit. So anything on that circuit, so if you had say a wall lamp, a refrigerator, and I don't know, something else that's plugged into it, those will actually stay active because Orison will island that individual circuit, so nothing goes back onto the grid.
I see. You're not directly connected to the photovoltaic, you're connected to the circuitry in the house.
That's right.
So it's always taking juice from the circuitry and putting it in the battery.
That's right.
And then how does it feed that back into the circuitry in the house?
So what we do is we actually, just like solar, where it comes in and it's bidirectional, right? You're flowing back onto the grid or into the house where the demand is greatest. The battery does exactly the same thing. People think outlet, so it means only power comes out of it, but the reality is it's just a receptacle. So power can go both directions as long as it's done safely and you meet certain criteria under energy code.
Yeah, so it's a plug. It's like any other plug. It's like the plug to my refrigerator. I just plug it in and now it's feeding the power back into the house.
So can you just use it even without PV? I mean, you just plug it and just store it so that you have a disaster or something, you've got it working, is that?
That's right. Well, the main idea behind Orison is, look, I come from a land development background, and so one of the things that we always dealt with is low-income housing. Low-income housing, 99% of the time, isn't single-family detached that's going to have solar, right? They're apartments, they're high-rise, whatever they end up being. And so in that situation, having Orison plugged in, making the building, in essence, a big battery shed multiple units. There's a lot of things that you can do. You can share between units if you wanted to. You can actually plan the demand response markets. You can deal with frequency response for the grid. We can actually sync up to renewable energy sources that have to dump the excess energy and call for demand at that point in order to pull that off the grid. So it's not just about the individual unit. It's about enabling the
Connections.
That's right. Well, and just storage in general. So right now, everything that's being addressed with storage is commercial or centralized storage for the most part. Even if you look at something like a Tesla Powerwall, that is for storage plus solar. It's a single family detached. Their market is those type of installations. Orison's that plus everything else, meaning if you think about Manhattan, you're not going to see enough solar on any of those buildings to make a difference, but centralized solar makes sense, or even community solar. So by having storage very close to the load, there's a lot of benefits from that for multiple parties, which makes the value proposition there.
Okay, let's mix this up with Dan Vickery, Policy Director of Recharge Networks. What exactly do you think of Eric's product?
I think it's great. I think any energy storage product is great, and we work more on the commercial side, and I think there's an equally an imminent need on the residential side, so I think it's a great product.
Okay, tell us about your company and your products now.
So energy storage, again, on the commercial side, we're behind the meter. We work with much larger installations, probably in the magnitude of 500 kilowatts to a megawatt, and we're really an intelligent energy storage company, so we develop the systems on customer sites intended to save the host customer money. So we save them money, and our model is actually a shared savings model. We call it the power efficiency agreement. So we own the system, we finance it, we pay for it all, and we really take all the risk of it actually performing and saving money, and then we share a portion of those savings back to the host customer.
So what's it going to cost me to have this in my? I guess can I have this in my house, or is this
We do
only
commercial. Yeah.
So what's it going to cost me? And just give me a frame of reference for my
Think that company.
my video company.
Yeah. So our model, again, it's a no cost model. We install it, we operate it, we own it. So absolutely no capital outlay on the customer's behalf. So we pay for the whole thing. They're expensive. Batteries are expensive currently. The magnitude of hundreds of thousands of dollars for these systems. But again, we work with a lot of financiers and developers to make this happen.
They're physically located there at the utility.
The batteries are physically located in, right behind a Safeway, for example, in the backyard. It looks like almost a refrigerator. You can stack a couple of them together, or we have different sizes that as you get up much larger, we have, larger containers that we put there.
So it's also modular.
It's very modular.
Does it have a Bluetooth speaker?
And we don't. I'll bring that back to our CEO. I think we need that. It's very modular, and it's always sized to the host load. So so a small, our 7-Elevens have maybe a 30 or 50 kilowatt system, where a larger, campus may have a megawatt or more.
I had the impression when you started describing it, this was very highly customizable, that you're going to build it for the particular situation, right?
It's very customizable, and it's really driven by, the retail tariff that they're on, what utility you're in. It's driven by what demand response programs are around. So our software really, it co-optimizes a lot of revenue streams, which could be, shaving a peak demand on the customer's load in their utility bill. So saving money there. You can arbitrage energy, as you mentioned, just shift from off-peak to on-peak or vice versa. And on top of that, we have, we can Green Charge networks all of our systems together and bids that capacity into retail and wholesale markets, which means you can get, Green Charge takes the risk and gets additional revenues in demand response programs, and then again shares that back with the host customer.
Do you ever connect one Safeway parking lot with another Safeway parking lot? In other words, can your system, mesh network between one installation and another, or is it only one installation at a time?
We do it virtually. We operate what we call the virtual power plant. So, our Safeways we can mesh together with our Kohl's sites, with our school districts, and depending on where the utility might need capacity, we can dispatch those systems intelligently to provide capacity to specific networks or circuits that utility needs.
So there's some common denominators here. The internet is common denominator. This is all part of the Internet of Things, I guess. And batteries is a common denominator. So I wanted to ask you guys, where are we on the continuum? This is all very exciting technology on both sides. And it's part of this kind of battery revolution, efficiency revolution, writing the software that will create greater efficiency and reliability and save money and save power. But where are we on the continuum? Is it only beginning? How old is your company?
We're about 6 years old. 6 or 7 years old.
Were you there at the beginning?
I was not. I've been there for a couple of years now, but I've been there for the fun part.
Okay.
The other guys did the hard work, and I came in for the enjoyable part. Where are we? I think so. Green Charge actually just got acquired by Engie, which is the world's largest producer of power. They just sold off, billions of dollars of natural gas and coal power plants, and now they're investing in companies like Green Charge to have these distributed fleets of batteries and solar and energy efficiency, and I think that's where we are right now. And that shows a massive shift in the energy landscape from centralized generation to clean distributed generation.
Yeah.
Software based.
So, you see that as iconic. This transaction is part of a process, part of a trend, part of a phenomenon that's happening in the industry.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. You're shaking your head. Is it happening on your side also?
It's happening faster than most people realize. So there's a lot of people that they're not that close to the industry. So they say, they look at simple arbitrage numbers, they look at simple financial metrics, which really have very little to do with what we're talking about. And ultimately, if you look at the Internet of Things and how things are connected together, and you look at our historical grid, which is a centralized model, everything is moving to a decentralized model. And there's a lot of reasons for efficiency, just being able to reduce some of the infrastructure costs that are there. And so because of that, we're actually seeing utilities around the world looking at deploying, in addition to things like Green Charge networks, but they're looking at deploying our units in millions over the next couple of years. So the demand, as I think the industry sees it, is on a hockey stick, but it's not just a fad or a fluke. There's really a necessity for us to do that. If we're going to shift to renewables, we have to be able to balance resources. And it's not just energy storage, it's the software that controls it.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that after this break. We're going to take a short break now, as we like to do, and we'll come right back, and we'll find out more about the common denominators here and what this reveals about the way things are going. Eric Clifton of Orison and Dan Vickery of Green Charge Networks. We'll be right back.
Aloha! Join us at TEDx Honolulu 2016. It's at the Blaisdell, July 9th from 10 to 5. The discount code is RACHAEL_TEDXHNL. See you then.
Hi, I'm Ethan Allen, host of Likeable Science here on ThinkTechHawaii.com. I hope you'll join me every Friday at 2 p.m. to discover what's likable about science.
Eric has something you'd put in your home. On the other side, Green Charge and Dan have something you put behind Safeway.
Virtually.
More than just Safeway, but yeah, sure.
Okay, both very exciting technologies. And Sharon, you had a question to put this in a larger
I
landscape.
did. I'd like, as we talk about transforming how we use electricity, it's really looking at the utilities and where have we seen it change and how is it going to change and what do you do to make it change?
Okay.
Sure. Well, I think there's certainly a couple states in the lead that are taking initiative on this. I think if you look at New York, for example, they're reforming the energy vision there. They're trying to entirely restructure the utility business model, turn it into almost a platform provider. So a platform for resources like ours to operate. And what that's going to do is, instead of investing billions of dollars in traditional infrastructure, transformers and substations and expensive equipment, you're now going to have software controls throughout the grid in strategic locations with battery storage, with solar PV, with energy efficiency and all these technologies that it's good. Ideally, the goal is to bring down cost of energy, and with very localized uses and with battery storage that can provide multiple services, the cost should come down very quickly for the end consumer.
You've had the same experience, or?
Yeah, a little bit different. I mean, the same. The big thing that I see that's happening right now, particularly with kind of virtual power plant and the distributed resources, we're seeing some utilities really struggling with the shift. They've had a business model that's worked for many, many years, and so they're very hesitant to try and move into new models. A lot of them are trying to figure out how they can regulate it and keep it part of their business model. But then you have a lot of innovative companies. So you have, not only do you have the traditional utilities, but you also have the utilities that are operating in deregulated markets, or globally, you look at some of the other markets where they're energy providers. Apple's now recently jumped into that, and they're looking at retail selling the renewable energy excess that they have to their customers to help try and reduce those costs. And so the utilities are faced with a really interesting road, and it's not something that they can really play with too much as far as if they're going to do it at the end.
It must be problematic for them. This is a complete transformation.
It very much is. And they're not designed to make that shift. And so there's a lot of innovative ones that are moving very quickly and embracing it. And there's a lot that are honestly, they're digging their heels in. In some way, rightfully so. The business model worked for many years, but they're not visionaries.
But we have to do this.
We have to do this. That's right.
So, and even if there wasn't, climate change kind of issues involved, or even if there weren't, economic issues involved, that's where the industry is going, and you'd better get on board. That's my sense of it, or you're going to be left behind by the whole, trend of it. But I wonder about consolidation. You've been consolidated. Good for you. It's a good thing. Are you looking for consolidation, Eric?
It's kind of a hard question to answer. So, Orison's 3.5 years old. We are just getting ready to hit the market. Some very large contracts we're moving to. When I started the company, really the thought was, because of the consolidation that's going on, we anticipate that is a high probability of something that will happen. We've had some offers, but we're just not ready to do that yet. But that being said, it's anybody's guess on where we end up going with this. Our brand is something that's very near and dear to us, and how we portray ourselves as a company, and so it has to be very much the right.
So you're still essentially in a startup mode. You have to scan the landscape every day and see what's going on out there.
Absolutely.
And not get left behind. It's a really exciting time, I'm sure,
Absolutely.
for you. But the one big common denominator here is these boxes, the little box, bigger box. Mm-hmm. It's all about a computer, isn't it? It's internet. So is it PC? Is it Apple? What's inside the box? Yes. And what kind of skill do you have to design what's inside the box? You go first.
I don't know what's in the box. It's a lot of intelligent software. We
Policy director.
Actually on the site, what's in the box is batteries and inverters. It's very simple. But batteries and inverters alone are a fraction of what actually needs to be there. And where Green Charge and other aggregators and storage companies come in is on the software side. We can connect to the utilities virtually. We can connect our own systems virtually. We monitor those systems. We understand if a system goes down or if the system, needs to inject more power instantaneously. So, the battery itself can sit there, but the software is really where all the value is made to the utilities, to the host consumer, to
who
a lot of
who writes it?
A lot of folks back in Santa Clara for my team.
Santa Clara.
They're really smart.
The world is all software in Santa Clara. But I'm just thinking that, this is really it's a very interesting, to be ultimately lucrative business to be able to write software for energy. A young fellow associated with ThinkTech, is at the engineering school right now. I told him, go study electrical engineering because that's the future. But I said also, it's all about the software that governs that. And you gotta study the software. You didn't care to study the software, right?
No, I'm not smart enough for the software.
What kind of software is it? Do you know the languages? I mean,
It's
you're not into software either?
I know that would be dangerous.
Yeah.
That's about it.
There's multiple levels. There's communication languages that you would communicate with the utility, open ADR.
Right.
And then there's what's the software made out of. I have no idea.
Well,
They won't tell me.
of course, and they shouldn't.
They shouldn't.
But it occurs to me that as we go forward, various disparate, diversified companies like yours, you're similar but not the same in your own way. You're going to find common points and maybe a common language even, common ways to do things and to communicate. Your point, communicate with the grid, communicate with other similar, established installations, and as it goes forward, maybe in short order, maybe the next few years, I think we're going to see. Don't you agree? We're going to see common points, industry agreement on some kinds of standards that happen to all of these battery efficiency type of devices and companies.
I think the answer is we hope so. The problem is everybody jumps on board, whether it's a silicon provider that's trying to come out with a new standard or it's a utility like the open EDR standards. The problem that you end up having is everybody has a bias because that's what they jumped into. And so it's really going to take, adoption of one type of system that's going to kind of rule the roost, and people will start to migrate toward that. I would love to say that we're all going to be, compliant and work together and create, but the reality is, look, we're all at the beginning stages. We're all entrepreneurs who are trying to make our stake in the ground and do the best, most efficient job we can, and obviously control as much of the IP as we can so we can have a platform that works seamlessly. And when you start integrating other people's devices into your platform, if they're not following what you're doing and you haven't been able to jointly write code together, there's problems. And so we have to control the experience that we deliver to our customers. And at the end of the day, that's our job. And the hope is that that experience catches on, whether it's somebody else doing it and we grab onto somebody else's base code or vice versa. But it's not.
Who knows? Maybe Orison will set the standard. And somebody Van Vickery, they're calling you out and asking you for the standard.
But it's technology, but it's also the people. And it's how do you work together and how do you develop that system? And what will that be in the future? And I think that's critical because we're all competing, but competing to get a good answer and for the customer.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, well, I think what's interesting here is the utility itself. Because I'm not sure if this exists for both your companies, but do you need the buy-in of the utility? Do you need approval and collaboration from the utility to do what you want to do? Do you?
Yes, because the real value you're providing is to the utility, and they're paying you to provide that value. And I think you can provide, you can provide backup power to host customers, and you can provide services to host customers, but that's only a fraction of the services we're providing, but both of us. And if that value is there to the utility, and they're willing to pay for that value. So I think it comes down to, again, changing the utility business model to shift towards correctly valuing these solutions and correctly paying for them.
So actually, you guys are interested in having the utility do the right thing. Does that mean that you would try by talking to the utility, or does it mean that you would try by going to the Public Utilities Commission, or the legislature, or the executive, or some government agency concerned with these things? I mean, I'm talking about policy.
Policy director.
They let me know about this. I think it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating what's happening is in the couple of states I mentioned and more is it's really a collaborative discussion. The utilities are in the room, the third-party vendors are in the room, the commissioners are in the room, and the ISO and the grid operators are in the room, and they genuinely want to change these and want to make it better because they all see value in this. But things haven't changed for hundreds of years, so this is all very new to these folks, and they're trying to make it happen, and it's happening very quickly for a regulatory shift.
And that takes me to the last part of our discussion. I would like to ask you why you're here at Verge. By the way, I didn't mention we're broadcasting from Verge, okay? In a room they gave us, Sharon and Milwaukee and me, and we're learning a lot. So this is apparently a big conference. It's the first time Verge has been in Hawaii. Before we had, what was it called? Summit something?
Yeah.
It was a different organization, different format, But Verge is big, and Verge is doing a good job here, so it seems. But why are you here? You both traveled to Hawaii for this conference. What brought you here? And my next question after that is going to be, what are you finding? Okay, what brought you here?
So historically, we've come to Asia Pacific because of the military interest.
That's the one I was thinking.
Yeah. And so when Verge took it over this year, it was a good opportunity to bring together more than just the DoD side of things. But really, it's Hawaii that brought us here. It is one of the greatest opportunities to transform an industry that the world is watching. And right now, as you guys know, there's a lot of policy issues and politics that are happening around, whether it's the acquisition of HECO or if it's just solar in general and the disruptive nature that's happening now with this particular grid, and how are they going to solve it? And so we're here to show that there are more options than what they're currently seeing out there, and giving technologically, right? And they're lack of a better term, there's more ways to skin a cat than the way that they're looking at it. And the problem is what we've seen in the past years, again, from the Asia Pacific side of things and the governor's speech on his desire to go to 100% renewables, they're moving down a path of traditional resources. They're basically moving from peaker plants and LNG to centralized battery storage. And the reality is that's only a fraction of the potential of what could be had if they look at a really decentralized model. But again, policy here we haven't seen it align, and so our hope is here at the Verge to be able to influence some of those decision makers so they understand they have options and we can actually get involved in the discussion.
And that's your message. You've come here to listen, but you've also come here to send that message.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What about you, Dan? Why are you here?
I think very similar reason. Hawaii is a microcosm for what our solution is designed for. There's extreme penetrations of solar PV, which are increasing in the next couple of years. And the value we speak about is there's real value to be had here by the utilities, by the consumers, and the PUC is watching and making sure this all goes to plan and we can reduce costs. If we don't, get these solutions to work soon, there's going to be issues on Hawaii's grid. And as Eric mentioned, the entire world is watching Hawaii. This is it's becoming a quick issue. And for us to be able to help regulators and utilities understand the value of our solution, understand the barriers we face on a regulatory level, and how to better integrate and more seamlessly, go forward with the solutions, it benefits a lot of stakeholders.
I know it's early, but what are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you hearing in the corridor? What's the sense of this meeting?
Verge in general. It's very early in this, so it'll be interesting to see what's to come. They haven't really begun any of the sessions, but my general sense is Hawaii is faced with two real options. The first is to continue down the LNG path, which is not what the wishes have been portrayed, or look at this problem that they have in a completely different way. And it's not one size fits all. It's number one, to speed the market. And the reality is a lot of the traditional solutions that are out there take years to implement. It is being able to look at a decentralized grid that actually can be very dynamic in how it responds to the changes that are happening in the microgrids and the microchasms around our climates, around the islands. And then being able to increase the amount of renewables in a fashion that actually gets them to the place where they can get off of diesel is only going to happen if they start talking to the different companies that have innovative solutions and start really truly vetting the technology that's out there. And to date, it seems like they've toed it, but from my point of view, it doesn't look like they've really embraced what they could do and what they should be doing. And I mean, you guys know, look, Hawaii has more natural resources than anywhere else on the planet, but they operate like a battleship in the middle of the ocean. Fuel has to come to it from mainland or other sources, and it makes very little sense.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's a question of which technology do you build into your planning? Today's technology or the moving target technology, the out-of-the-box technology that's coming down the pipe? And some of it hasn't come down the pipe. So it's the old computer development kind of issue that you have to look forward, but how far forward? It's a conundrum. How do you feel about this? I mean, are you feeling the same kinds of, process in this conference?
I think what I'm seeing is that nobody knows how soon is it going to come. Nobody knows the solution, but everyone knows where we need to get to, and they know we need to get fast. They don't know how fast. And I think that's what a lot of the discussions are based on, and what we're here to say and what others are here to say is we're ready. We want the opportunity, and we'd love to work with you all to make the solution happen.
What do you think is the next step forward? Say, we've been saying, okay, 2045, 100%, but we're looking at, okay, look at 2030 and we have to get to 30%. And that's even harder to get to 10%, increase in renewables. So what is the next step forward if you were to be involved? What would that take for the you and the utilities or PUC, the commission? What does it take? What's the next step forward that needs to be done?
Yeah, I can answer. So from our point of view is being able to clearly review options that are out there for true integration. I always joke about the high cost of free energy. And the reality is the major shift in the business model that you look at is renewables. Once the infrastructure is in place, there's very low maintenance on them. So you're not dealing with paying for a fuel that's now turning into energy. So there's no more kilowatt hour, like it becomes a service model. I think if utilities can't make the leap to being a service provider to their ratepayers, one of the big issues I think is they're never fundamentally going to get to a place where they see eye to eye. Right now there's a growing disdain over utility against consumers and people trying to defect. And quite honestly, it's a bad business model. Because you're the incumbent, it's not like communism where you say, well, it is right now, where you say, you do this because this is what I'm offering you. But the reality is they need to switch that back to where, look, the ratepayers paid for the infrastructure. The utility was contracted to be able to manage that for the ratepayers, but right now it's seen somewhat as an adversarial role, and it shouldn't be. We can offer services, not Orison, yes Orison, but I mean the proverbial we can offer services, but the utility can become more of a service provider and actually find that parity with their consumer. And so there's sort of this odds, I think, in integrating the consumer's voice along with the utility's voice and coming to a true agreement. And it's sort of, this is our way, and that needs to end. Otherwise, we're not going to make the,
And you can reduce the price for the consumer. I mean, that's ultimately.
Well, think about it. If once we get the entire infrastructure in place, we have the renewables in place to produce what's needed, there's a managing role for the utility that's in place to take care of the poles and wires and that service. But then there's also now an infrastructure that, again, it's based on not kilowatts anymore, it's based on the service that you opt in or opt out of. And people have a fear of, well, that means people think that they can use as much power. It's just like your cell phone. I mean, there are ways to do it where people are incentivized to use less or more depending on different times. And with the dynamic grid, we can absolutely do that.
What I hear you saying is that we have to change the platform. The utility has become this kind of platform. And it has to be really good at vetting new technologies. It has to be able to find them, examine them, compare and contrast them, and pick the right ones, because they're always going to be changing. And so the role of the utility up until now, I don't think it's been that. And you're trying to make it that, aren't you?
Not necessarily. I think their role is to provide the right incentives and see what the market can provide.
Incentives to guys like?
Incentives such as price signals. Provide, when the value to them is high, send a price signal that is high. When the value is low, tell us to charge or not, dispatch onto the grid.
They have huge power over you.
Yeah, exactly. But if you look at that, I think that's where the real change comes in, is when they provide those signals in the right way. And I don't think it's their job to necessarily pick the technologies, whether it's line or haze or not even battery storage. I think if green charge or battery storage or VPPs can provide a service instead of another, solution at a lesser cost, we should be able to win that market.
What would you say are the criteria?
Sorry, we're out of time.
I'm
sorry.
No. We got to do that.
Yeah. That's Eric Clifton of Orison and Dan Vickery of Green Charge Networks, both here at the Verge Conference. Learning, listening, speaking, sending messages, participating in a collaborative process that will bring it all together. That is bringing it all together. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha, Eric. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, I'm Ray Starling, and I am co-host for Hawaii's Wednesday afternoon State of Clean Energy. And with me today is Leslie Cole Brooks, and she's going to tell you what's happening this month with our shows.
Hi, everybody. I'm Leslie Cole-Brooks, the Executive Director of the Distributed Energy Resources Council, and this month the focus is on distributed energy resources. We just had a great show on smart grid technologies, and the rest of the month we're going to discuss storage, different strategies, microgrids, and then we're going to have live man and woman on the street from Verge. So it's really exciting, very informative, lively, and just worth doing. So see you next Wednesday.
Thank